My sister ruined my wedding, and now my parents wonder to co-parent my baby due to her struggles with infertility. I'm 28 female, married to my husband, 30 male. My sister, Olivia, is 31. Growing up, we were close. Not just a sibling kind of close, but she was my best friend, my confidant. We shared everything, or so I thought. Everything began unraveling 2 years ago, around the time of my wedding. Olivia had always been the center of attention in our family. She was the older sister, the one who excelled in school, sports, and later, her career. My parents, though they loved us both, always had a soft spot for Olivia. She was their golden child. I didn't mind because I admired her too. She was my role model. However, cracks began to form during the wedding planning process. Initially, Olivia seemed supportive, offering to help me choose my dress, plan the decorations, and even find the perfect venue. But as the months passed, her enthusiasm waned. She started missing appointments, making excuses, and sometimes outright criticizing my choices. I shrugged it off, thinking she was just busy with work or personal issues. One incident stood out. I picked a beautiful, rustic venue for our wedding, a barn with chandeliers, soft lighting, and the perfect countryside backdrop. Olivia insisted it was too cliché, and suggested we move it to a high-end hotel ballroom. When I refused, she sulked for days, barely speaking to me. My parents, who usually mediated our arguments, took her side, saying, "Olivia knows what she's talking about. She's been to more weddings than you." Still, I held my ground. It was my wedding, and I wanted it to reflect my and my husband's tastes. The real trouble began 2 weeks before the wedding. My wedding dress, a gorgeous lace gown with intricate beadwork, went missing. I'd left it at my parents' house for safekeeping, and suddenly, it vanished. We searched everywhere, from closets to storage rooms. I was devastated. My parents thought I was being careless, but something felt off. Olivia stayed unusually quiet during the whole ordeal. A week later, a boutique called, informing me they found my dress, but it was damaged. Someone had dropped it off, claiming it was beyond repair. The lace was torn, the beadwork ripped apart, and wine stains covered the fabric. I was heartbroken. Who would do such a thing? That's when a lingering suspicion crept into my mind. I didn't want to believe Olivia was involved. She was my sister, she wouldn't stoop so low. But my best friend, Jessica, mentioned something odd. She had seen Olivia near the boutique a few days before, carrying a large white garment bag. I confronted Olivia, but she denied everything, acting offended that I'd even think she was capable of such a thing. My own sister, "Really? Do you hear yourself?" She scoffed. "Why would I sabotage your wedding?" I wanted to believe her, but my gut told me otherwise. I let it go, thinking maybe I was overreacting. After all, weddings were stressful. Maybe it was just bad luck. But deep down, a seed of doubt had been planted. Despite the dress disaster, I managed to find a backup. It wasn't my dream dress, but it would do. The wedding day came, and while everything seemed to go smoothly, I noticed Olivia wasn't her usual vibrant self. She looked resentful. During the toast, instead of celebrating our love, she gave a strange, backhanded speech. "Marriage is tough," she said, her eyes locking with mine. "But some people are tougher. Let's hope they survive the first year." The room fell silent. I laughed it off, but inside, I was fuming. What was she trying to imply? Was she jealous? Angry? I didn't understand. After the wedding, Olivia distanced herself. Weeks turned into months without much contact. Then, suddenly, she dropped a bombshell. She and her husband, Nathan, were struggling to conceive. She sounded desperate, broken. She confided in me, saying she felt like a failure. Despite everything, I felt sorry for her. Infertility was a cruel beast, and I couldn't imagine the pain she was going through. My heart softened, and I offered support. I even suggested she join a support group or seek therapy. That's when my world shifted again. A year later, I got pregnant. My husband and I were overjoyed. It was a dream come true. When we shared the news with our family, my parents were ecstatic, until they glanced at Olivia. Her face was a mix of forced smiles and glassy eyes. She congratulated us, but it felt hollow. Things took a darker turn during my pregnancy. Olivia grew distant again, and my parents started acting strange. They visited more frequently, asking invasive questions about the baby. "Have you thought about how this might affect Olivia?" my mom asked one afternoon out of the blue. "What do you mean?" I replied, confused. "She's struggling, and now you're having a baby." "Maybe you could include her somehow," my mom suggested, hesitating. "Include her? How?" "Maybe let her be involved, really involved, like a co-parent." I was stunned. "Mom, this is my child, not a community project. Olivia can be an aunt, but a co-parent, that's insane." "You don't understand her pain," she snapped. "She's your sister, family helps family." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was she serious, sharing my baby? It felt like I was in some twisted alternate reality. My dad chimed in, saying Olivia deserved happiness too and that my baby could be a blessing for her. I stood my ground. No, this is my child. End of discussion. From that day, my relationship with my parents became strained. They continued pushing, making me feel guilty for something I had no control over. Meanwhile, Olivia acted like nothing was wrong, but I knew better. She avoided baby-related conversations, and when she did show up, her smiles were tight-lipped. By the time my baby arrived, my parents had worn me down emotionally. They kept hinting at how sharing the baby could heal the family. Olivia even dropped a comment once, saying it would be easier if we could raise him together, like sisters should. I was horrified. This wasn't normal. How could my parents and Olivia think this was okay? I knew then that I had to set firm boundaries or risk losing my sanity. Despite my refusal, the pressure didn't stop. Instead, it intensified. My parents started visiting unannounced, Olivia offering to babysit constantly, and every family gathering became a subtle interrogation. "Don't you think it's time you give Olivia a chance to bond more?" my mom pressed during one dinner. "She is bonding, as an aunt. That's all she'll ever be," I shot back. The tension was palpable. My husband was my rock through it all, supporting me and protecting our little family from the constant barrage. But Olivia, she wasn't giving up, and I feared what she might do next. I began noticing subtle changes in Olivia's behavior after my firm refusal to share my baby. She became increasingly possessive during family gatherings. If I turned my back for even a second, she'd swoop in, picking up my son without asking. She'd cradle him, whispering things like, "Auntie Olivia will always be here for you," in a tone that sent shivers down my spine. At first, I tried to brush it off. Maybe she was just trying to cope with her grief in her own way. But then, her actions became more concerning. She started calling herself Mama Olivia in front of my son. The first time she said it, I froze. "No, Olivia," I corrected her, forcing a smile. "You're his aunt, not his mom." She laughed it off. "Oh, come on, it's just a joke, lighten up." But it didn't feel like a joke, it felt deliberate. Then there were the gifts. Lavish, over-the-top things that went beyond what an aunt would normally give: custom furniture, expensive toys, even clothes with phrases like, "Mommy's little angel," embroidered on them. She didn't stop there. She started suggesting parenting advice, often undermining my decisions. "You're not feeding him right," she'd say, or "He's crying because you don't hold him enough." My parents chimed in, supporting Olivia's unsolicited advice. "She just wants to help," my mom would say. "You should be grateful she cares so much." Grateful? For someone trying to take over my role as a mother? I felt trapped, constantly defending my decisions. My husband noticed my anxiety and tried to intervene, but my parents brushed him off as being overprotective. The final straw came during my son's first birthday party. We hosted a small gathering with close family and friends. Everything was perfect until Olivia made an unexpected announcement during the cake cutting. "I have something special for my little boy," she said, stepping forward with a large envelope. Everyone turned, curious. She opened the envelope and pulled out a framed certificate. "I've set up a trust fund in his name," she declared proudly, "from both of us, me and Nathan. Because he's as much ours as he is yours." The room fell silent. My heart pounded in my chest. Was she serious? "Olivia," I said, my voice trembling, "this is not okay. He's not yours." She looked taken aback, feigning innocence. "Why are you overreacting? I'm just trying to secure his future." "No," I said firmly. "You're crossing the line. This isn't about him. This is about you trying to insert yourself into a role that isn't yours." My parents jumped to her defense. "She's just being generous," my dad argued. "Why can't you accept her help?" "Because it's not help when it's overstepping boundaries," my husband cut in, his voice steady but firm. "You all need to respect that we are his parents. Not Olivia. Not anyone else." The tension was unbearable. Olivia stormed out, tears streaming down her face. My parents followed, throwing us angry glares as they left. In the days that followed, my parents gave me the silent treatment. They refused to acknowledge any wrongdoing on Olivia's part, insisting I was being selfish and cruel. Olivia, meanwhile, played the victim, telling extended family members how I had pushed her away, despite her efforts to be involved. I began to question everything. Was I being too harsh, too protective? But every time I held my son, I knew I was doing the right thing. He deserved to grow up knowing who his real parents were, without confusion or interference. Still, the pressure didn't let up. My parents escalated their campaign, calling constantly, begging me to reconsider. They insisted Olivia's heart was in the right place, that she was just trying to heal. One night, after yet another exhausting phone call, my husband sat me down. "This isn't normal," he said. "We need to set stricter boundaries. They're not going to stop unless we make it clear that we're serious." He was right. We decided to limit contact with my parents and Olivia. It wasn't easy. They accused me of tearing the family apart, saying I was punishing Olivia for something beyond her control, but I stood firm. Then, one evening, my worst fear came true. I had just put my son to bed when there was a knock at the door. My husband opened it, and there stood Olivia, eyes red and swollen, clutching a baby blanket. "Please," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Just let me hold him. I promise I won't do anything. I need this." My husband blocked the doorway. "Olivia, you need to leave. This isn't healthy for you or for us." She broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. "You don't understand. I've lost everything. I can't have kids. I just need to feel like a mom. Just for a moment." My heart ached seeing her in that state, but I couldn't let her in. Not like this. "You need help, Olivia," I said softly. "But this isn't the way. You're hurting yourself and it's by doing this." She screamed, "You're taking everything from me," before running off into the night. I collapsed into my husband's arms, shaken to my core. This wasn't just jealousy. This was something deeper, more dangerous. We filed a restraining order the next day. It was the hardest decision I've ever made, but we had to protect our son. My parents were furious, accusing me of being heartless, but I couldn't let their guilt trip sway me anymore. I loved my sister, but she needed help I couldn't provide, and I wasn't willing to sacrifice my family's safety for her misguided desires. Update: it's been 6 months since we filed the restraining order against Olivia. The aftermath has been emotionally exhausting, and our family dynamics have shifted drastically. My parents are still furious, and communication between us is almost non-existent. Every attempt to reach out turns into a confrontation about Olivia, and it's clear that they see me as the villain in this story. At first, I felt overwhelming guilt. Was I too harsh? Could I have handled things differently? But the reality is, my son's safety and well-being had to come first. Olivia's behavior had gone beyond jealousy. It was obsessive and unstable. My husband has been my anchor through it all, constantly reminding me that we made the right decision, even when it felt like the world was against us. Olivia hasn't contacted us directly since that night, but I've heard things from mutual friends and extended family. She's been seeing a therapist, which is a small relief. However, her resentment toward me hasn't faded. A cousin recently told me that Olivia refers to me as the sister who stole her life. Hearing that broke my heart. I never wanted to be in this position. I wanted my sister back, the one I grew up with, the one I trusted. But that version of Olivia feels like a distant memory now. The restraining order has given us some peace of mind, but my parents have made it clear they don't respect our decision. They've tried multiple times to get us to reconsider. My mom even suggested that we mediate things by having supervised visits with Olivia, as if this was a custody battle. "She's family," my mom pleaded over the phone. "Can't you find it in your heart to forgive her?" I stayed calm but firm. "Mom, forgiveness isn't the issue. She needs help, and until she's in a healthy place, I can't let her near my son. This isn't about holding a grudge, it's about protecting my child." She hung up in frustration. That was 2 months ago, and since then, I haven't heard from her. My dad is just as distant. He sent a terse email saying, "Family is everything, but you've chosen to divide us." I deleted it without replying. As for Olivia, I've learned from others that she and Nathan are still struggling with infertility, though they started exploring other options like adoption. Part of me hopes this will give her the chance to heal and move forward. I want her to find happiness, but not at the expense of my family's stability. I've also been reflecting on how this situation has changed me. I'm more protective, more cautious. Trust doesn't come as easily as it used to, especially with my family. My husband and I have agreed to keep our distance from my parents and Olivia until we're certain that the boundaries we've set will be respected. Recently, something unexpected happened. I received a letter from Olivia. It wasn't angry or accusatory, but instead, it was surprisingly introspective. "I've been seeing a therapist," she wrote, "and I'm starting to understand how much I hurt you. I lost myself in my pain and projected it onto you. I'm not asking for forgiveness or for you to forget what happened. I just want you to know that I'm working on myself. Maybe one day, we can have a relationship again." Reading that letter was like a punch to the gut. I wanted to believe her, but I was also wary. Was this genuine, or was it just another attempt to get back into our lives? My husband and I talked it over, and for now, we've decided to take it slow. I haven't responded yet. I'm not ready, but knowing she's seeking help is a step in the right direction. In the meantime, my focus remains on my family. My son is growing fast, and every day with him feels like a blessing. The ordeal with Olivia has been a painful reminder of how fragile family bonds can be, but it's also shown me the importance of protecting those you love, even when it's hard. I don't know what the future holds for Olivia and me. Maybe there's hope for reconciliation, or maybe the damage is too deep. All I know is that, for now, my priority is my son, my husband, and the peaceful life we fought so hard to protect.